Hello there, we're live from our studios here in Kokomlemle on digital address GA0992539. Our lead stories this hour. Almost 6 hours of petitioners witnessed in the boxer's lead counsel for President Akufo-Addo grilled him in a bid to run down his credibility, who is, by the way, the opposition NDC's General Secretary, witnessing for its flag bearer John Mahama in the ongoing election petition. More as the exchanges get heated at the Apex Court. We'll be crossing over to bring you more from our correspondent who is standing by. Also coming up, Ghana averaging a 700 daily COVID-19 infection as President Akufo-Addo reimposes restrictions in the hope the problem will be solved. Well, will it? We hear from health experts and you out there. Also, frontline workers at Komfo-Anokye Teaching Hospital agitated over unpaid allowances as they serve notice they will lay down their tools, citing, among others, disparities and discrimination in the payment of government insurance packages. We're live in the Ashanti region. And the pulse is brought to you by Global Communities Dignilu, affordable, safe sanitation. And of course, do join us on DSTV 421, GoTV 144. We're streaming live on YouTube as well. You can send us a WhatsApp on 0540109009. My name is Gifty Andopia. This is the pulse. Please be my guest. Well, you're welcome back to the show. Now, General Secretary of the Opposition NDC, Johnson Asiedu Nketia, is insisting no candidate won the December 2020 presidential election, saying that is the basis for the party's petition before the Supreme Court. He's, however, admitted during cross-examination today that the NDC did not attach any data to support the claim that none of the candidates reached the 50+1 threshold to win the presidential polls. Responding to questions from a lawyer for President Akufo-Addo, Akoto Ampao, the NDC General Secretary was unable to tell the real figures from the valid vote cast, since, according to him, the Electoral Commission chairperson kept changing the figures after the result was announced. Let's go right now to the court where Joseph Akabli, our correspondent, is standing by. Hello, Joseph.
Hello, Gifty. So proceedings just ended and you heard the news conferences that were addressed. I'm joined by Ediji Tamaklo. He's a member of Mr. Mahame's legal team, one of the spokespersons actually in terms of the official statements from Mr. Mahame's side. I mean, just to be clear, I mean, is your side satisfied in clear terms with what General did in the box today?
Extremely. In fact, the counsel for second respondent ended up doing our case for us. Quite clearly from the cross-examination, he admits that there were, in fact, in his own words, manifest error. I mean, when you say an election has been conducted and that there is manifest error, what else? And remember that at the core of this petition is the constitutional responsibilities of the Electoral Commission provided for under Article 63(3) of the 1992 Constitution. And that function is performed by only one person, the returning officer. In fact, it has been suggested by way of questioning in court today that the NDC should produce its own figures. That has never been the constitutional responsibility of a political party to declare its own result. That's for the EC. And through the lawyer of the second respondent, he admits that even the percentage allocations to the various candidates in the election were erroneously declared. Look at the Techiman South presidential election results. I mean, when have you seen this kind of election before? When have you seen this kind of election before? I mean, if we are going to have elections in this country conducted in this manner, then we should as well just forget this democratic experiment, where we'll be asking various political parties to produce their results. It has never been the case.
But if you are filing a case in court, I mean, you don't expect the court to do the mathematics for you. You should do the mathematics and make a case. I mean,
General has said that plus or minus, we believe that the declaration on the 9th
Yeah, but General, in terms of the videos that were played, there was one video where General makes the point that the elections are declared in polling stations across the country. The question Jasapa was trying to find out is that you have access to the pink sheets.
Remember that presidential election is one constituency.
Yes, but they are declared at the individual polling stations. They are declared at the individual polling stations across the country. And the question Jasapa was asking is that, as it stands now, does the petitioner know how many votes he actually obtained in the election?
You see, we are in court based on relief sought. Unlike the 2013 petition, where the petitioners then were asking the court to annul votes, and that when those votes are annulled, he will be declared president. Our petition is not. So it is obvious that there are certain misconceptions that had been carried from the 2013 petition into this very one. In this specific one, you notice that we are not even bringing polling station pink sheets as the basis of this petition. No. We are saying that on the 9th, there is a person constitutionally mandated to do declaration of presidential election. That person is called Jane Mensah. She, in fact, did a declaration on that 9th. That declaration, as we speak today, the result, she had been given different numbers to date.
Your colleagues hold the view that you know the truth, which is that when you put together the figures from those polling stations, you know that the president, i.e. the second respondent, got more than 50%. That is why you are not bringing that document.
Be correct. The declaration done on the 9th by Madam Jane Mensah, it cannot be correct.
And the declaration done across the country.
No, that is why I'm saying that even the second respondent and the first respondent, as we speak in court, they are no longer relying on the result declared on the 9th. They have run away from their own figures. Have you seen any election conducted in this country from 1992 in this manner before? Beyond the incompetence.
Another point we've seen in the last few occasions that the petitioner has not been coming to court. I mean, he should be following the case. I mean, is there any reason why?
No. I mean, because from the beginning he unveiled himself. He has other businesses to take care of, and like he said, he had worthy representatives. He's well represented by way of legal representation, and he's well represented by way of the party as well. The party's general secretary. In fact, you note that the running mate was equally and has always been in court.
Finally, we know that Dr. Michael Pesawait is your other witness. I mean, what is your plan going forward into tomorrow?
He has always been around. We were thinking that today the cross-examination will be a bit more crisp, a bit more, straight to the point, beyond the, all over the place, But at the core of it is that Dr. Michael Pesawait is quite ready. He's been, hovering around, thinking that today will finish early so he can mount the witness box. Yes, sir.
And he's ready to mount the box?
In fact, he's a witness of fact. He was in the strong room, and he will come and tell the good people of this country the manner in which Jane Mensah treated the petitioner. Yes.
Thank you very much, Counsel. And so you heard Edudzi Tamaklo. He is one of the spokespersons for John Mahama's legal team, the legal team that is handling this particular petition here at the court. Gifty.
Yeah, Joseph, it's interesting. I just want us to go over what has happened so far, and also hopefully to get some sort of reaction from the other side on what Mr. Tamaklo has just been telling you right now. But for the second respondent lawyers, and we heard Kojo Nkrumah speak there, it sounds like Mr. Chikata had a lot of work to do, as far as he's concerned. That Mr. Chikata had a lot of work to do because from his perspective, the witness didn't do such a good job.
That is the view that Mr. Nkrumah holds. He spoke on behalf of President Akufo-Addo's legal team, and as far as he's concerned, Mr. Seydou Nketia was exposed, and he said he's a general who was exposed badly, and he made reference to the three key questions that Justice Yawapo asked at the latter part of the proceedings. The questions relating to whether he knows for a fact how many votes the petitioner obtained by way of his own coalition and the other matters that came thereafter in terms of that particular question. And so that is the view that the president's legal team holds. Unfortunately, they addressed the news conference first,
yes,
and right at the end of the news conference, they left the court premises. That is how come we were unable to get a reaction from
Joseph,
them.
let me just jump in there.
The former president's legal team, they just finished addressing, and that's how come we're able to engage Edudzi Tamaklo.
Great explanation of that situation. It's really not a big deal. We've just been joined on the line by Mr. Kojo Nkrumah, who wants to respond to some of the concerns or some of the issues raised by Edudzi Tamaklo there. Joseph, so hang on for me. I'll be coming to you shortly. Mr. Nkrumah, good afternoon.
Hello.
Hello, Mr. Nkrumah. So thank you very much. The Edudzi Tamaklo makes a point that there is a fundamental problem when your lawyer, your counsel himself admits to what was the description for it? The errors, the manifest errors that apparently was committed. For him, it's something that makes their case for them even.
But I'm not sure that the government of their case essentially is that there is an error simpliciter in the verbal articulation of the results as mouthed on the night. I'm not sure that that's where their case ends. Their case is to the effect that there is a mistake or there's an error, which error amounts, if you add the press statement to it, to vote padding, and that if you do the hypothetical calculation of Kejima and South, we have to go for a runoff. Let nobody kid himself. Today, when Poch was put to shove, and now their star witness, Mrs. Johnson Esidun Ketia, was put under oath, you began to see their case crumbling. First of all, as I mentioned earlier, our objective was to showcase to their learned or to the respected justices of the Supreme Court the fact that the witness in the box and the petitioner do not have credibility. And I think Counsel Akoto Ampao displayed that excellently by playing back to them their own claims in which, contrary to what they've been saying under oath, now in videos we are seeing them claiming that they had won this election, some giving figures of over 50%, that they had won about 10 regions, etc. Now, as we go into the number specific and give Mr. Esidun Ketia the calculator to begin to calculate, however he calculates it, Nanado still gets 51% and over. Now, even these so-called, errors, if you look at the issues that have been set out, one of the questions is that these alleged errors, even if admitted, are they material enough to alter this 51%? And you heard the Venerable Akoto Ampao repeat that question over and over again to Mr. Esidun Ketia, and he couldn't help but admit it. At a point, you saw him denying his own pen drives. You saw his counsel trying to bail him out that they can't tell the authenticity of tapes and therefore it ought not to be admitted. Some of the things that they themselves had admitted.
Mr. Nkrumah, all of those things have been explained by Marietta Buropong, who explained some of the things that happened. You had gone to court today trying to run down the credibility of this particular witness, but their argument is that at the end of the day, you ended up actually soaring, and that's the word they use, soaring the credibility of the witness, because first of all, your counsel admits to padding, but then you try to rope in the NDC at a point.
No, first of all, I'm sure everybody who watched the proceedings in court saw clearly what happened and will not come out with the opinion that Mr. Esidun Ketia distinguished himself in the witness box. Secondly, our counsel did not admit to padding. Our counsel put it to them that in their so-called claim or the alleged claim of padding and the allegation that there's a grand design to, as it were, steal this election for the second respondent, they are beginning to hide parts of that evidence because they realize that it undermines their case. And he drew their attention to the fact that despite the fact that they make this blanket argument of padding in their pleadings, Mr. Esidun Ketia deletes it from his witness statement because he notices that that allegation of padding as a grand design to help the second respondent cross the mark cannot be sustained, and actually is undermined by the fact that, according to their own allegation, which allegation we are not saying is true, there were places in which, according to their own allegation, they also padded votes. But when he submitted his witness statement, they deleted it. Unfortunately, they forgot that the soft copy was still on the pen drive. And that's why Mr. Gotampao drew their attention and drew the court's attention to the fact that the thing they try to hide from you, the untruths, the falsehoods that they are trying to peddle, they are exposed by the pen drive and the soft copy. And when they attempted to deny it, when Mr. Seydou Nketia attempted to suggest that he didn't know anything about the pen drive or the soft copy, you saw counsel for the EC also on his feet attest to the fact that he was also seeing the same thing there, and they couldn't deny. Now, in the end, that's how come you heard Justice Apau asking him, who put the soft copy on the pen drive? Because you have attached it to your witness statement. Indeed, earlier, you heard counsel for Mr. Mahama mislead the court or attempt to mislead the court that it wasn't as part of Mr. Seydou Nketiah's witness statement and that it was part of the petition. And the bench quickly corrected him that no, it is what Mr. Seydou Nketiah attached to his witness statement and swore an oath to support. So unless you haven't been watching the proceedings that have been happening in court today, you are not left with any other impression than the fact that contrary to what these gentlemen told their supporters to get on the streets, do all that they did, now when they are sworn under oath and are asked to take a calculator and calculate, they come back and say, yes, my lord, that is true.
Two quick things, and then we wrap up, Mr. Nkrumah. Regarding the numbers you talk about, Madam Marietta indicates that when they did the calculation in court, we saw what she says consistently changing or ever-changing figures, which then is described as the manifest errors. And then he says that the video that you played, trying to use that as part of eroding his credibility, actually sought because in those videos, Mr. Seydou Nketiah did only what she calls projections and did not say explicitly that someone had won the election.
And I'm not sure the bench
Wrap up for me on that, Mr. Nkrumah.
Semantics. I'm not sure the bench will be deceived by these semantics. These are learned justices of the Supreme Court. So, a play around words is not what is going to, deceive them. When before them, there's clear evidence that the petitioner, for example, says that there has been vote padding of 5,000 and then now comes to court and chooses to change that to say that these are samples. If they are samples, what is the final figure? And that is why in the end, Justice Apau simplifies the matter and asks them a question. When you did your own coalition, what did you get? Doesn't it strike you as strange that Mr. Mahama, Mr. Seydou Nketiah, and all of these gentlemen announced to the world that they had won this election? Now, when they are under oath and you ask them, what figure did you get? They say they don't know. They didn't bring it to court. They don't have a figure. And it is becoming clear, even to the NDC supporters, I am sure, that their leadership has led them on a wild goose chase, that they knew from the beginning that this election has one clear winner beyond 51%. Because today, as you saw, Mr. Seydou Nketiah, whether you add Techiman South or you take it out, whether you use the press statement on the second day or the original declaration, even despite these alleged errors.
Okay.
When he did his own calculation, 47-51. I'm sure their supporters will have questions for them as the days go along.
Mr. Nkrumah, thank you very much for your time. Kojo Nkrumah, he is a member of the second respondent legal council there, responding to some of the issues raised by Eduji Tamaklo, who has spoken to Joseph Akable at the court. Well, I have lost Joseph, unfortunately, but we'll bring you more, especially the highlights and, the story as it unfolded in our subsequent bulletins. Right now, we're taking a break, and when we return, we want to focus on this national crisis that we're dealing with, COVID-19, averaging 700 infections a day. It is becoming more than the disaster we thought it was. Do stay with us. Welcome back. This afternoon, new and tighter restrictions are taking effect as the government steps up the fight to slow down the spread of COVID-19 here in Ghana. In his update number 23 last night, President Akufo-Addo said the country's situation is now dire as hospitals are full of many severe and critical cases of infection.
As of Friday, 29th January, 64 more people have sadly died over the last 2 weeks, bringing the total number of confirmed deaths to 416. Our hospitalization rates are increasing, with the number of critically ill and severely ill persons now at 172. Our hospitals have become full, and we have had to reactivate our isolation centers. Our average daily rates of infection now stand at 700, compared to 200 2 weeks ago. The total number of active cases has more than doubled, from a little over 1,900 2 weeks ago to 5,358 currently. When I delivered update number 22, 13 out of the 16 regions had recorded active cases. Today, all 16 regions have active cases. Indeed, Greater Accra, Central, Western, Ashanti, Eastern, Upper East, Upper West, Volta, and Northern regions are the hardest hit, accounting for 94% of the total number of active cases.
Well, to address this, a number of new restrictions, as you may be aware of, are being introduced, including a reintroduction on the ban on mass gatherings.
Until further notice, funerals, weddings, concerts, theatrical performances, and parties are banned. Private burials with no more than 25 people can take place, with the enforcement of the social distancing, hygiene, and mask-wearing protocols. Beaches, nightclubs, cinemas, and pubs continue to be shut. Our borders by land and sea remain closed. All workplaces, public and private, must employ a shift system for workers, in addition to the use of virtual platforms for business or work. Conferences and workshops can take place with all the appropriate protocols. However, I encourage the use of virtual platforms for such engagements. Restaurants should provide takeaway services and should, as much as possible, avoid seated services. The National Sports Authority and the Ghana Football Association should ensure compliance with the 25% capacity rule in our stadia, with spectators respecting the social distancing rule and wearing of masks. To the revered leaders of our religious organizations, that is our churches and mosques, I entreat you to enforce to the letter the protocols relating to attendance, i.e. the 2-hour duration, 1 meter social distancing, mask wearing, use of sanitizers, and the presence of Veronica buckets, liquid soaps, and rolls of tissue paper.
As President Akufo-Addo there, he's also been announcing a comprehensive enforcement plan to ensure that there is total compliance.
As we step up public education and enforcement of the protocols of public gatherings, let me also state that regulatory agencies will undertake random checks to ensure conformity with these rules, and the security services will be tasked to enforce them. You do not have to be arrested by the police before you wear your mask. Your workplace should not be closed for non-conformity with the protocols. If there's no urgent reason for you to be outside, please stay at home. Each one of us can help to contain the spread if we continue to practice the measures of social distancing, washing our hands with soap under running water, refraining from shaking hands, and wearing our masks whenever we leave our homes.
Well, so how do we feel about this? There have been mixed reactions to this ban placed by the president on weddings and funerals due to the rising COVID-19 cases. Well, while some say it is a good initiative, others have expressed worry over the debts that they are incurring due to the plans that they'd already made.
Funerals and other occasions is something that is designed in such a way that people will come together. You get it. So definitely there will be contacts. And I think basically my knowledge about this COVID is that when people get in contact, they can easily transmit the disease. You get it. So there's no other way.
I think what the government, the president of this nation has done, I think is the best thing for us. And I believe that each and everyone should comply to the directive that he has put into places. So I think when we follow it as Ghanaians, I think we will do well.
So long as it is in our own interest, I don't have anything about it. So it is okay. We have to wait and see what will happen in the future.
It has affected me. I don't know if it is positive or negative because as I speak, the remains of my dad is in the morgue, and then we're planning his funeral actually for this month. So with the president placing this restriction of about 25 people for funerals, I think it's a blow, but I don't know if it's positive or negative because it also means I'll cut down costs in terms of people, feeding, refreshment and stuff.
Honestly, I think he should have given a week or some days notice, because I was listening to the radio this morning and a lot of...
Well, let's have a conversation on the back of this. I have Dr. Dacosta Abuaji. He's leading the risk communication for COVID-19 at the National Response Team. Doc, thank you. Good afternoon. Our concerns have been raised about enforcement. Is there a plan to carry this out as robustly and as carefully as we ought to, given the situation we're in right now?
Thank you so much. Let me greet your viewers. Certainly, there is a plan. We have been engaging the Ghana Police Service. I think over the last 2 weeks, I have personally had meetings with them, and for them to enforce the regulations put forward by the EI. And I think they've also said that they will be introducing some innovations where, for example, if you are in a trotro and you are not wearing the mask, they will actually pull you down and maybe give you a mask or ask you to buy. Again, I've also noticed that they themselves are using their outlet to promote the wearing of the mask, which is actually good. And like the president said, they would actually be going around to do random checks in the various pubs and the places that are closed, the beaches and other places, to make sure that this is enforced strictly. Let me say that at the moment, until we get the vaccination, these restrictions and the safety protocols are our solution. And that is why we keep emphasizing, we keep stressing, there is no way out. The only way out is for people to comply with the safety protocols. We shouldn't be tired of wearing the face mask because, it is the solution to, it's the solution to our problem as to how we have to fight this virus. We shouldn't be tired of washing our hands because it's actually part of the solution. And the virus is actually not tired of us, so we shouldn't also be tired.
People are asking is, why do you reimpose restrictions on mask gathering and not extend that sort of into our taxis and our trotros and our, public buses or public transport system, because we know how crowded it can get?
Oh, thank you. The things that we have done are guided by data. For example, I haven't really, I haven't seen any case from any transport operator, but what we have been doing is that we are engaging the GPRTUs, the Ministry of Transport, so that they extend, they are able to educate their members on how they are able to open their windows, compliance to the safety protocols. And like I said, the police will also be supervising or enforcing the law in terms of the wearing of face masks in those vehicles. So I think it is in order that we do that. But in terms of parties and funerals and weddings, our data is actually clear that those are actually sources of infections for us. That is why we have concentrated on them. Another source is also the workplace. This virus actually thrives very well in confined spaces, especially air-conditioned space. So it is the reason why we are saying that if you are in an enclosed area, open the windows for open air to come in there. Because I think when you do that, obviously you limit the rate of spread within such an environment. The social distancing at workplaces is very important. It was also clear in the president's speech that we should adopt a working shift system and make sure that we use virtual means where necessary to do our meetings, workshops, and conferences. So I think all these things are just to limit the spread and reduce the numbers until we get the vaccination in.
Hello, Doc. I wanted to ask you a follow-up question on the public transport. To what extent is it even realistic to say that the windows in a trotro, as we know it in Ghana, for example, is safe enough with all the number, is safe enough at full capacity? I mean, are we not just not being realistic if we pretend as if that is not a problem?
No, I don't think so. You see, if you are in a public transport, and for example, you don't talk to anyone and you are wearing your face mask, certainly you are okay. And if windows are open, the air will come in. Obviously, it will be open air ventilation. So I think those are some of the processes that we have actually gone through with the DPRTU, the Ministry of Transport. And it's about continuous education to their members that this is what they should continue to do. That is why we also encourage all passengers to wear their face masks, because that is very, very important. And they should also limit talking in those transports. So I think they are aware, and as the police are going to help us enforce it, I think they are okay.
The police themselves have also come up for criticism about how they arrest. The very first, for example, arrest was made, and people said that you look at this video and you saw how people have been cramped up in one room. Has there been a change in strategy when it comes to arresting people, even if we're saving them from themselves, but putting them together and creating another something that experts have called super spreader avenue?
Yes, I mean, obviously you are spot on. So we are engaging them to see how best we obviously work together on some of these things. But I'm sure that we'll communicate the challenges to government, and if there is a review, they'll communicate to us. But I can tell you that we are working with the police in reviewing some of these things, because obviously one of the protocols actually says that we should avoid crowded places. So if you are arresting people into crowded places, then so I remember when we were discussing discussing, one of the things that came out was that when they arrest the people, they should separate them obviously, they shouldn't just put them together. So I think those things, those concerns have actually been expressed by the police themselves, and we are working on it. And this is why we also ask them to also come up with some innovations to implementing the EI 64.
Well, look, there's one thing that I want to talk to you about, but I want us to look at a bit more of the coronavirus-related stories that have come in, and then we'll take that one as a final question. We want to understand whether or not there is a risk communication strategy. It's something that experts have alluded to and said it could be very, very helpful, but it has to be very
There is certainly
I'll come to that, Doc. Just hang on with me if you don't mind. Right, I see the book there, but just hang on for me. Now, I want to take you to Kumasi, the Ashanti region, where frontline health workers there have served notice that they will lay down their tools over what they're calling unpaid allowances. They're about over 200, and they are aggrieved frontline health workers who attend to severe and critical ill COVID-19 cases at the Komfanochi Teaching Hospital. But they are unhappy with what they say are disparities and discrimination in the payment of insurance packages promised them by government. Ohim Interior has been investigating the concerns of these health workers, and he has put together this report.
Komfanochi Teaching Hospital takes care of pediatric and critically ill adult COVID-19 cases. As at January 26, 2021, at least 251 positive cases, representing 48.9% of samples taken, have been treated at the facility. But taking care of COVID-19 positive cases comes at a cost to medical staff. They risk their own lives.
In fact, the team that manage COVID cases at Komfanochi are very, very, very efficient. They work diligently to be able to care for the patients well.
The government in April 2020 promised to pay 50% of basic salary of frontline health workers. It also announced insurance package for medical staff who contract COVID-19 in the line of duty. But the supposed beneficiaries say they are yet to benefit, especially from the insurance. According to them, some administrative staff who are not frontline personnel but lately contracted COVID-19 have been paid the insurance ahead of them. The aggrieved health staff have threatened to lay down their tools.
Those who manage the cases, nurses, doctors, contracted it as early as May, and their names were sent to the ministry for payment. Those people have not received it. And people who are not clinical staff, but staff of Komfanochi, but they don't manage patients like an accountant or a health service administrator. I know two people who are not clinical managers, but contracted it in August, and they have been paid. There's a growing disenchantment and serious uproar. People are not happy. Now, if you are not careful, most of our people are going to lay down their tools.
The strike could be widespread as colleagues from other hospitals in Ashanti and other regions have threatened similar actions.
The danger is the first week of February. If we are not being careful, before we realize there will be a day that you go at the treatment center and there will be nobody there. Other hospitals are also trying to gather their tools and then decide that, oh, this is our working tools. We are not going to work until we receive our monies.
The Ghana Medical Association is worried about the situation. Ashanti Regional Chairman Dr. Pakwesi Bedu says some members are owed about 3 months arrears of the 50% basic salary promised them, plus the insurance packages.
The last check, people were complaining that for 3 months, they owe them an arrears of 3 months. And this is from a platform of doctors. We have over 2,000 doctors on that platform. That's where the complaint was coming from. The Ghana Medical Association national leadership have taken it up. We use this medium to urge our Minister of Health designate and our Finance Minister designate that if they've really paid health workers this amount, they should let us know the names, the facilities.
Management of Komfanochi Teaching Hospital has also expressed frustrations in the payment of insurance packages to staff at the facility. Medical Director Professor Bafo Kofipoku have been speaking to the issues.
It is beyond our capabilities sitting here as to why they have not been paid. We sent the list to the Ministry of Health. The Ministry of Health scrutinizes it and sends to the Ministry of Finance. So the payment comes directly from Comptroller and Accountant General directly into their bank accounts. When it comes to the insurance, we compiled a list from April to October and sent to the Ministry of Health. The total list was 351. The ministry sent us a list of 71 as those they have shortlisted. So we go back to the ministry and asked, what was the criteria? We are on the ground. We know people who have been infected. Before we can say Jack, we got wind that close to 40 people in Komfo-Anokye have received some amount of money, being insurance money from government. I have no idea how the selection was done.
The effect of frontline health workers laying down their tools could be dire, especially on potential COVID-19 positive cases.
It's like a revolution. Whenever there's a revolution, people die. After that, the right thing is being done. If you are left with no option, that's the only action that you have to take. That's the only message that they are ready to hear. And that is the message we are going to send them.
Until government addresses these concerns, the worst could hit the country's healthcare delivery. From Kumasi, for Joy News, Ohime Nteria reporting.
Well, Ohime is joining us via Zoom right now to join Dr. Da Costa as we have this conversation about our cases. Ohime, has there been any development on this story so far?
Not really, not at this time. But what I do know is that the workers at Komfo-Anokye Teaching Hospital are happy that they are able to articulate their issues in the media, and hopefully they believe the Ministry of Health and the Finance Ministry will attend to the issues and address them as quick as possible. If not, then they will be faced with no other option than to lay down their tools.
Let me throw this to Dr. Da Costa, see if he can help us with some sort of answer. Doc, you've had the concerns about being what they're calling disparities and discrimination when it comes to government promised interventions for people like them. I don't know, does this, trigger any answers that you can help us with?
I think listening to them, I think I deduced two things: the 50% and the insurance. Now, for the 50%, to the best of my knowledge, what we normally do is we work with the facilities for them to submit to us frontline workers. And all those that were submitted, and I think it goes through a validation process. Those ones, to the best of my knowledge, they've been paid. So if there are issues, then I think I'll inform the Director General and the Minister designate so that we can contact Komfo-Anokye and quickly see how we can address that.
Okay.
In terms of the insurance, I think it's also the same process. To the best of my knowledge, some people have actually received their insurance. So they may have a genuine concern. So I think we may have to quickly look into this. But normally, like, we are the headquarters, so we will always work with the facilities that they've been working in, so that we are able to address some of this. But I think, thank you for bringing it to my attention. I will immediately speak to the Director General and communicate the outcome to you.
Okay, so sounds good. Doc, still stay on with me. It looks like we may quickly get some response, but have the authorities at Komfo-Anokye Teaching Hospital themselves responded to these concerns and allegations?
Gifty, the management at CAT is frustrated because they say that, for instance, when you look at the insurance payment, first they submitted and shortlisted a list of 371 beneficiaries. These are people who are staff of the hospital and at one point has contracted COVID-19. And later the response that they got from the ministry was that the ministry has shortlisted 71 out of the 351. So if you compare these numbers, then the indication is that there's a backlog of staff at Komfanoche Teaching Hospital who contracted COVID-19 and has not been paid of the insurance package. For instance, the medical director, Professor Bafo Kofi Poku, mentioned that at the time that they were engaging the ministry as to why 71 of the 351 names submitted could be, approved by the ministry, then they had about 40 of the 71, people have started receiving payment.
Okay.
So it's something that he says the hospital has no, hand in the payment, and this is done at the ministry and is paid to the accounts of the beneficiary. So he says they've been engaging the Ministry of Health on the issue.
Ohemi, thank you very much for this. As Doc has said, he will pass this message on to headquarters, and hopefully we'll get some response between now and hopefully by close of week. Ohemi Teria is my colleague there joining us from Kumasi. I still have Dr. Da Costa Abuaje. Doc, let's wrap up. We talked about the risk communication. Before that, quickly, let's address the issue about vaccine. We know that President Akufo-Addo has indicated that there is a target of 20 million Ghanaians. But is there a clearly laid down procedure when it comes to how this inoculation will be done? I know this might not necessarily be within your purview, but what information do you have that you can share with us?
I think for me, I worked on the subcommittee for communication on the vaccine. But what I can confirm is there is a clear national plan for the deployment and also around the vaccine. And it is the reason why the president was able to make some of those categorical statements. So what I will say is that, as long as it's ready, we will certainly either through the Director General, the Minister, or the President will actually make known. Then we will take it from there. So, but I can assure you that there is a plan to that.
One other plan, which is right there on your lap, is the risk communication. Health experts have said that we are not communicating perhaps the risks enough, which is why Ghanaians, first of all, went apathetic with the protocols in the first place. Is there, and I've seen the book, beautiful book, but at the end of the day, is there a plan to lift up that information that is in this book and share it abroad and make sure that the information actually seeps in? If there is the plan, do share with us so we can help you to share it abroad as well.
Okay, so thank you so much. There is a comprehensive plan for the risk communication. In fact, the President's weekly updates as part of the risk communication. We, from our level, also do have our regional offices. These regional officers do engage the various stakeholders, the NGOs engage, we do house-to-house education, we engage on various radio discussions. The Ministry of Information actually has been helping us in weekly press briefings. And not only that, the ISD at some point also came in to help us. In fact, the MMDAs they've also activated their public health emergency committees, which includes risk communication. In fact, to the best of my knowledge, every Ghanaian, trust me, knows about COVID-19. But the fact is, you see, in terms of behavior change, and like I keep saying, this is not part of our culture. So we just have to continue to reinforce the messages, coming up with various means to reach the public so that the public will take ownership of what we are saying. The fact is, the virus also keeps evolving. It's a novel virus, and communicating some of those things is actually difficult because, as scientists, you really have to get the data to inform your communication. So as the data comes in, we try to change our strategy. Again, bear in mind, when the disease keeps going down, during those times when the disease was going down, that was when people thought the disease was actually gone. So it is a difficult process. Change, that is how it is. But I'm beginning to know that, you see, with this enforcement that came in, you could see that people have started wearing their masks, and people do know that the risk is there. But as to whether they will actually accept to comply with is what was actually left. But I'm sure that with this enforcement that the president and other stakeholders playing the part, I think it will all come on board. It's not a simple fit approach. It is an all-inclusive approach. This is why we keep every day hammering on the protocols. Countries like New Zealand and Australia, now today as we speak, New Zealand have no case. And how did they do it? They did this through wearing of the mask, the safety protocols, and the whole world. The safety protocol seems to be our lifeline. And
but perhaps they had, perhaps they had a risk communication plan that we should or we can learn from. Maybe that's what we're lacking. That's what's not putting fear enough. It's not putting fear in people enough for them to start wearing the mask and be obeying the protocols.
Yeah, in fact, if you look at the last few days, you see when the cases have actually gone up, you see that people are now afraid in spite of even the enforcement. So people are complying. So there are various strategies, like you can put fear in people. Like people are saying that they haven't actually seen dead bodies. So that's why they are not actually complying. So I saw, in fact, it was Joy FM. You went to, I think, you went to one of the hospitals and you were showing pictures of those people who were actually sick and then narrating what they are actually going through.
Yes,
and
the producer of this program did that.
In your medium, you've been playing a lot of messages from various, obviously, healthcare professionals, and also jingles and other things are being played on radio through, that's what we call the above the line. So those strategies, I think we have. And we have also done a little bit of community engagement. We engage the chiefs to make they understand what is actually going on. And those are the things that we have to let the people, the engagement that we have to do for the community, the people to obviously own the safety protocols. So we continue to do it, but I mean, we can share the plan as well, the national plan.
I think you should share so that we can, help in the dissemination of this information.
On our website for everyone to have a look.
Very well. Doc, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. Dr. Dacosta Abuaje there, he's in charge of risk communication when it comes to our COVID response in this country. Now, the Food and Drugs Authority says it has approved the first herbal medicine for a clinical trial for COVID-19 treatment. The medicine, known locally as Nibima, was submitted by researchers from the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology's School of Public Health in September last year. In a statement, Chief Executive Officer of the FDA, Delise Mimidako, said the authority gave the go-ahead for the clinical trial last month. More in this report.
In search for a treatment for the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, researchers from the School of Public Health at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology submitted a clinical trial application in September 2020 to assess the safety and efficacy of Cryptolysis sanguinolenta as a potential treatment for COVID-19. This follows results from laboratory studies conducted by the KNUST research team, which points in the direction of possible clinical benefits. The FDA, after detailed assessment of the application, gave the requisite regulatory authorization for the conduct of the trial as per the mandate outlined by Part 8, Sections 150 to 166 of the Public Health Act 2012, Act 851, which gives the authority the legal mandate to regulate clinical trials of drugs, herbal medical products, cosmetics, and medical devices. The trial will be conducted at 2 sites. To this end, the public is admonished to report any suspicious activity on FDA-regulated products to the authority via any of our platforms.
Also, News Desk report. Meanwhile, President Akufo-Addo has revealed that the first batch of vaccines targeted at 20 million Ghanaians will arrive in the country in March this year. But some scientists have discounted the possibility of the vaccines reaching the country's shores before June. Listen to Director of the West African Center for Cell Biology of Infectious Pathogens, Dr. Gordon Awandare.
I would discount that. That would just be maybe a few trickles for just a small number of people. For us to get vaccines in substantial quantities, that will make a difference to the people. I think it will be the second half of the year, just based on the fact that there's a queue for these vaccines. People have pre-ordered vaccines. We are now trying to make an order. So, it's not realistic that we're going to be getting millions of doses of vaccines anytime soon. And we have to also realize that most of the vaccines, you need 2 doses. So if you buy 20 million doses of the vaccine, that will vaccinate 10 million people. Okay, so we have to bear that in mind. The president mentioned a target of vaccinating 20 million. That means that we need 40 million doses. So we have to think about these things in a more realistic manner. And I think that we shouldn't raise the hopes of the people that we're going to have any vaccines anytime soon. Because I think that realistically it's going to be the second part of the year, towards the end of the year, before we have any substantial quantities of vaccine in Ghana.
And that's Professor Awandare there. Well, before we go, he adhered to all the COVID-19 safety protocols until he attended the birthday party of his granddaughter and had to take off his mask to eat while talking with other friends who had gathered for the event. Some days after he became infected with coronavirus and was later admitted at the University of Ghana Medical Center. His wife and son were also infected. That is the story of a professor of medicine and a vice president of the Accra College of Medicine, Reverend Professor Adukwe Hesse. He has been admonishing Ghanaians to adhere to the COVID-19 protocols.
Our family has been very, 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 very careful. So very careful. We advocate and we correct people on the streets, wherever. Indeed, if we're to buy something by the roadside and they were not wearing any mask, we would just drive away. That day, that evening, we had a little debate and asked ourselves whether it was worth going to this party at all. But then the social pressure of what the little child will think, his parents, or sorry, her parents, and so on and so forth. So, okay, we masked up as we always do, and if you come to our house, we have tens of masks in the house, all different types. When there was an open air rooftop near the beach, good breeze party. Then it came to eating. And that is where we can't eat and drink without masking. So that was it.
You described this disease as evil. I'm sure it's the place where it took you. Can you help us understand what you went through even at the UGMC?
Yeah. I had so many operations, and I've gone to ICU after the operation. So staying in ICU is nothing new. But the feeling this time of Bible says, later on I understood 2 things in the Bible. 1, anyone sick, call the elders. I couldn't do anything for myself. I couldn't think, I couldn't pray, I just could not do anything. And later on, the word came and said, I am in you both to will and to work.
I certainly do not want to get there. Gary R. Smith is standing by with sports on the pulse.
Thank you for staying with us on the Pulse. Time now for the sport. I'm Gary Al Smith. And even in the throes of COVID-19, we still have our football for now. You could tell from the president's tone yesterday that what he said about the football was just a warning. And it was because a day before the president spoke, that's on Saturday, Hearts of Oak and Accra Great Olympics played a spectacular game of football. But off the pitch, in the stands, it wasn't so great. And so we're all hoping that everybody will adhere to the protocols. But let's come to the game proper. The star of the show was Gladson Awako, Great Olympics key man. And he's secured an impressive 2-0 win together with his mate against Hearts of Oak in what has become known as the Manchester Derby at the Accra Stadium. Olympics, what it means is that they are now third on the table with 18 points. Hearts are fourth with 16. They still have just a little bit of difference between them. And we'll talk about the Olympics now with my colleague, Mubarak Haruna, who has been following them from pre-season until now. He joins us via video call. Haruna, thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
Yeah. First of all, I mean, I recall the reports you did about Olympics in pre-season. With 11 days to go, with 11 days gone, going into the 12th, do you feel vindicated?
Well, yeah, I think so, because Great Olympics is a team that I've monitored, not even in pre-season, but truncated season. I monitored them closely, and when you look at things were not going on well in the truncated league, and what they did was to put in a conscious effort of recruiting players who want to stake a claim for themselves, players who want to make a name for themselves. So this time around, the coach and his technical team I'm referring to the indisposed Arno Walker. So he did the scouting with his technical team. He brought in so many players. They did their trials and they passed. And that is what that's what we are seeing now. They are playing so well because they want to prove their critics wrong.
You've used an apt word for Arno Walker when you say he's indisposed because he's been around. He's not been around due to illness. However, it's been interesting that contrary to what many people would expect, with the coming of 2 new coaches, nothing has changed in the system at Great Olympics. Why do you think there has been so much continuity, considering that Yao Preakun was not even part of the setup when Arno Walker was there? Mubarak.
Yeah, it was part of the decision of management to appoint Yao Preakun because they made it clear to him that they need a coach who will continue, who more or less guide what Arno Walker has done. And that is what exactly Yao Preakun is doing. They wanted a coach because they knew that Arno Walker was doing so well. It's the same players. They don't like a system where a new coach will come in and he wants to test new players, new systems, new philosophies. No, they don't want that way. They don't have time to test. What they want is results. They've already set their target. Their target is to be in the top 5 come the end of the season. So Yao Preakun is just continuing what Arno Walker started. And when you look at the lineup of Great Olympic, it's the same from the goalkeeper to the number 9 striker. It's the same players, the same system, and more or less same substitutions as well, Gary.
Yeah. So we have something on our Slack right now, saying that Olympics are the landlords of Accra because they've beaten all the teams who are based in Accra, Inter Allies, Legon Cities, Asante Kotoko. They've all been beaten by Accra Great Olympics. Now, what do you think is the feeling like in the Olympics dressing room? What's the next step for them, considering honestly, they'll feel like they have surpassed their target for the season with 11 games gone, won't they?
Not at all, Gary. Great Olympics, like I said, they are aiming to be part of the top 5 come the end of the season. Remember when Arno Walker got ill, they went a run of 2 games with losses, and because of that, they are not complacent at all. They've made it clear, the board has made it clear to the players that they need to be in the top 5 because they've struggled for a while. Great Olympics, they are a traditional club. And if people don't know, apart from Asante Kotoko, Accra House of Folk, and Ashanti Gold, Great Olympics have more Premier League titles than any other team in the Ghana Premier League.
Exactly.
No team has more, apart from the 3 teams I've mentioned. So they are a club built to boast, built to brag on their achievements. And I'm not surprised. In derbies like this, when they are facing their opponents in Accra, they play above themselves because they always want to be ahead with regards to the bragging rights, Gary.
Yeah, and as you speak, the table for the Ghana Premier League has just flashed onto the screen. It's very, very tight. So tight that the team at the top has 21 points, but the team in 9th, that's Elmina Sharks, have 15 points. Just 6 points between them, meaning that should any team, including Great Olympics, be a bit complacent, they can slip very, very quickly. This is where I want to ask you, how deep is their squad to go the entire season with this momentum?
Great Olympics, they are not targeting the title, number one. Number two, there's no pressure on the team to qualify for any African competition whatsoever. So the players are playing in a relaxed way. Now, talking about their depth in squad, they've signed about 11 players. So many players. They've signed about 11 players. And I can tell you, they have more players, more quality players on the bench that people are not privy to. The reason is that they've got their first 11. And like we always say, you don't change a winning team. And that is why we are seeing them sticking to the same first 11. In the game against Accra House of Folk, their dependable right back, Paul Philip Saki, was suspended due to an accumulation of yellow cards. Yeah. They quickly brought in Ebenezer Seture to come and play at right back, and he did so well. In that particular game, their dependable centre-back as well, called Matthew Dunga, got injured, and they brought in Zakaria Hamza, and they were able to keep a clean sheet. So they've got so many quality and proficient players on the bench that people are not privy to. And for me, as time goes on, we will see the real quality of Great Olympics.
Right. We are seeing the second goal here, where siblings, so the number 4 you see on the shot, cross the ball to his brother, who hits the ball into the back of the net. Tell us about them.
Well, their partnership have been superb.
But first of all, you know the names they use. Are they biological brothers?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm not quite sure who is the eldest, but Maxwell Abbey, and then their full name is the guy who scored the goal. The second goal is called Maxwell Abbey. Yes. He usually plays as a striker, as a left winger, and his brother is Samuel Abbey. So they are brothers, and whenever you visit them at the training grounds, they always practice together. They wanted to form this particular formidable partnership, and I'm not surprised that I'm seeing it in games. I'm not surprised at all, to be very honest. And that is what they want to do. They always want to, and they always enjoy playing with their target man called Manan Mudasiru. Yeah. When you visit them at training ground, that's what you see, because he's someone that is very strong, very powerful. So, and because they are runners, because they have pace, they feed off him quickly. His strength, he's able to draw 2 center halves close to him, and the spaces that he will leave behind, that is where Abbey and Maxwell will exploit. I'm not surprised about their very good understanding on the pitch at all, Gary.
So finally, we know Olympics are playing tomorrow. They are not having any respite. They played on Saturday. They play again tomorrow. Have you had a peek into what's going on in their dressing room, inside their camp? Have they come down from the cloud 9 after beating their rivals?
Yes, Gary, they have, and their coach has made it clear to them that the next game is always the most important game. It does not matter about the victory today. You need to win your next game to put you in a comfortable lead, to put you in the driving seat, in order to let you not to be complacent. So it's the message is very clear from your prayer coach, Olele Kingston, and of course Godwin Trump. So they are not complacent at all. The mood is over. They are looking forward to the game against King Faisal, especially seeing what King Faisal did at Chelsea on Friday. They are ready to go actually for this game.
Nice one. Thank you, Mubarak Haruna of the Joy Sports team. We'll be getting more from him as time goes on, especially as Great Olympics are doing well this season. Remember, Olympics have a slew of records or a slew of impressive statistics to their name. Their goalkeeper has conceded the least number of goals in terms of the clean sheets than any other goalkeeper in the season as well. Gladson Awako currently has scored the second highest number of free kicks in the Ghana Premier League. Olympics have picked more points on the road than any other team in the Ghana Premier League, 10 points, more than Hearts, more than Kotoko, more than anybody else. They really are the wonder club, aren't they? Anyway, that's the sport for now. We'll be bringing you more later on Joy News Prime with Israel Laye and the rest of the gang. I'm Gary Al Smith. Thank you for the time.
That was just sports, and this is it. There's more news at myjoyonline.com. Do log on, share the link with your friends. This video, by the way, this show is on demand on our YouTube channel. Let's Talk Showbiz is how we wrap it all up. But don't forget to do this. Wear your mask. My name is Gifty Ando Apia. I'll see you again tomorrow, God willing. Take care.